Welcome back to Passionate About Music Education, a channel dedicated to you, the music educator. Today I'm going to talk about when to look for a new position and when maybe it's time to quit music education. This is a very difficult topic and quite a serious one for us to talk about, but it's really good to talk about the different reasons we may feel undervalued, discontent, or ready for a change. First thing, of course, to consider in this conversation is why you're considering leaving. Sometimes in education, particularly for music teachers, we're leaving because of lack of resources, lack of funding, or because maybe we're not aligned with the program. So for instance, some people, particularly at the start of their career, often find themselves in a music position where they're asked to take on other additional subjects that maybe not of their skill set. So sometimes to fill the timetable, it's like, can you teach some maths classes or drama classes, or oh, you did science in your A-level, can you take 2 classes of that to fill your timetable? In that position, you may well be ready to move on because you're looking for a full-time post as a music educator, which would be totally understandable. Sometimes we find ourselves unhappy and we have to review whether that unhappiness is our own stress level and us perhaps not finding healthy ways of dealing with that, which I don't think as educators we're very good at talking about. We're really good at supporting students. We're very good at talking about this child was acting completely out of character and therefore we put in loads of measures. We don't do this in education for adults. I really think this is a great shame because truthfully, if we did a better job of supporting teachers, particularly in moments of stress, we'd have more teachers staying in education, full stop. If you're finding yourself overwhelmed, stressed, you're working ridiculously long hours, you can't cope with it, you're coming home, you're grumpy, you're not eating well, you're not sleeping well, then you know at that point that there's an imbalance and that you need to consider why. Have you got things going on in your private life that actually is impacting your own well-being and therefore that's also going to impact your job? All of that is a normal question to ask because with that is this a temporary problem? For instance, you might have a sick relative or somebody might have hurt themselves and you're having to care for them on top of doing your running around physical. Is it that time of year where coming up to Christmas we've suddenly got lots of parents leaving some reports to write and attending meetings and we're doing our Christmas concert and everybody's getting sick? Is it a small time or is this an ongoing unhappiness that you have? That's a good question because sometimes within the school year we all get fed up, we all get a bit tired, we get fed up with the cold and the routine and oh, it's another meeting or it's another this, or I'm getting behind on my planning, it's because I've got to go to this meeting and that's quite normal. But if it's like every single week, then that is a time for you to sit and reflect about what it is you want next. In my own personal experience, I think at those moments of time that kind of came up for me, sometimes it was because I was overdoing it. I was trying to do too much and because I always wanted the best for my department and my students. I always wanted to be creating lots of music ensembles and events and help my top students and my A-level students and GCSE because I just was so passionate about helping my students. The problem with all of that was I never knew when to stop, so it became just too much. I just kept going and going and going and I wasn't very good because I didn't know how to release some of that stress. It kind of just went from the moment I got to school and I was go, rehearsal while eating a sandwich, go to the photocopy and run back, teach, do that, get home, plan lessons, manage the department, answer all the questions that people were asking. And I just kept it going and I kept going until eventually it caught me up. What I should have been doing, and I wish somebody had taught me this, was I should have been self-caring. I should have been making time within the week to do the things that I wanted to do rather than making excuses for not doing them. So at that point, you've got an imbalance. When you're saying, I can't go to the gym, possibly I can't do anything for myself at all because I'm so busy. That's okay for a week or two, but if that's ongoing, that's not a healthy place for anybody to be in, regardless of the career we're doing. So self-care is really important, and if you're finding yourself not sleeping, eating, double down on the self-care. Go to bed early, get some good food in you, just let go of the things that are important. Don't respond to everybody else's deadlines. Honestly, the amount of emails that you get, particularly now in this modern day and age, when I first started teaching, it was all memos put in your pigeonhole. You could kind of ignore those, but you can't ignore the emails. You just ping in, you need to go, if I don't answer it, I will forget about it, so let me answer it straight away. But then you're doing that for everybody. Because you're so efficiently answering it, people then keep sending you more emails, and everybody's like, I need this by 9 o'clock. Well, why are you asking me this at 8:32? Why have I got to stop doing what I need to do, because I have a massive list, to do something that you were disorganised about? That's when we need to push back a little bit and say, I will get to you, but I can't get it to you by 9 o'clock. When is the latest you really need it? Because truthfully, you probably don't need it for a week. They've just decided to put 9 o'clock. Sometimes you can't avoid certain dates of things that have to be done. For instance, reports. They're usually on the school calendar, so you know in advance that they are happening. So it's also planning backwards to say, right, it takes me quite a long time to write 500 reports, because often we're teaching lots of students, so we have a huge amount of reports to write. So I need 2 weeks on it, and I need to just do a little chunk at a time and make sure that I don't run out, and create those word bags and phrases, and what you need from your curriculum, and think about what you taught, so you can use those phrases to make that whole process quicker. I really wished I'd been taught meditation. That is such a life changer, to take that whole pause moment, to think about your breath, to release your shoulders. As teachers, we tend to be tense all the time because we're trying to control the classroom, watching kids with instruments, making sure nobody hurts each other, making sure nobody's doing anything that they shouldn't be doing, because middle school and high school kids, keeping the whole room safe, trying to make sure as learning you've got 15 minutes and the next class coming in, so you're watching the clock, and we're trying to give instructions, and our shoulders are here. Our tension's here because we just go, and we don't release any of that during the day. So it's actually during the day. Sometimes, like certainly in the last 5 or 6 years of teaching, I started putting on a little bit of meditation music, either at break time if I was still working at my desk, or I would put it on at lunchtime, or even the first couple of minutes as the children come in, because while you're doing that, they're also doing it, because they're literally going from one room to another constantly, and they don't get a moment to relax either. So I think all of those are really important to help manage, and I wish somebody had taught me those years ago. I think I'd have been a healthier teacher. And perhaps at that point, I would have coped with those stressful moments, and I wouldn't be so, right, that's it, I'm looking for another job, or that's it, I'm leaving teaching. If you're ready to leave and look for a new role, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's being really clear with what it is you're looking for next time, as opposed to just a job to get out of it, which sometimes we do. Sometimes we're in a position where I need a role, I need another job, and I don't want to be here in September. And that's okay, and we've all done that. But often when we do that, what is a positive that we've lost at the last place, there's always a negative somewhere that we've now inherited. So consider what it is that you want. Is it a promotion? Is it to work in a bigger department with more staff? Is it an opportunity to work in a different type of school? So going from a public school to a private school, from a mixed gender school to a single sex school, whatever it is that you're looking for. Is it a department that's better resourced? Maybe you're a music tech whiz and you want to go and work in a school that's actually got some computers and some music software. Or you're the opposite and you're in a tiny little room and you would love to do band and you want that big band room so that you can do big rehearsals. And it's got a decent stage where you can actually do the performance and some theatre lights. Whatever it is that you're looking for, make your list really be clear on what it is that you want next in your next step of your career as an educator, so that when you are looking for jobs and you're going for interviews, you can ask those questions. Again, you might say, actually, I want to work in a school where people, collaborate. I mean, there's no collaboration where I am. These are questions that you are perfectly within your right to ask at interview, or even prior to that. What is this? because we often think the interview is about the school. It's very much school led. You need to come to this day and you need to do this and this and this and this. And so you turn up and you go through all the hoops, and then you come out and go, I didn't ask a single question. I'm not sure whether this is the right school for me. If they offer me the job, I don't know. So actually the interview is for you equally as much as them. They know what they're looking for. If they've decided that they are looking for a string teacher because they've currently got a string teacher, or they're looking for a second year teacher because they want to keep the costs down, it does not matter how brilliant you are. So never get upset when you don't get a role. There will be some agenda on the leadership team, the recruitment, the head of department, because they're looking for something specific. Now that should of course be in the advert, so if they really want a string teacher, they shouldn't really be inviting a woodwind teacher to come for an interview, because it's a waste of everybody's time. But unfortunately that doesn't always help. So it's really important that you think about what kind of environment you want to work in, as well as your resources, and whether you want to teach a band program or general music, or you want to have GCSE and IB or GCSE and A level, or you want to go down that BTEC route. Be really clear when you're looking for the job, because you're more likely to find one that suits you, that makes you happier on the next move. If you're really not sure whether you should leave or not, that's perfectly fine too. That's where you make a list. What do I like? What don't I like? What can I change? What can't I change? And that will give you a very clear idea of what the reality of it is, what you're prepared to accept and what you can no longer accept. Sometimes we cannot change certain things, and that's the time where we know we have to look for something else. Sometimes we find ourselves in schools where the culture doesn't align with our own personal values. And this was something that I thought about in one of the jobs that I was in. And after leaving, I was like, why didn't that work for me? And it was because my personal values as an educator and as a person did not match up with the school culture. And that was okay. But that's why it didn't really work for me. And I didn't feel happy or valued as a member of staff, because I didn't ever feel that I could actually be myself. And that's a difficult position to be in. But once you're out of that, you realise it. So again, if you're finding yourself in an environment where you're not really truthfully yourself, then perhaps your personal values and the values of the culture, that working culture that you're in, don't match. And that's okay, because once you realise that, you can say, can I accept it? Is this something that I can live with, or is this something that I can't live with? And that will give you an idea of whether it's time to look for a new position. The last point is when to leave education. And that's a really difficult one, because there's so many benefits. There's so much, it's job security, as everybody will always say. There's a great career progression, there's opportunity to travel around the world and work in different schools around the world, which I've done, and has been a fantastic life experience. But knowing when to stop is really difficult. Some people will never stop. They will teach all the way through their career. Some people stop after 4 or 5 years and go and try something else. Some people sort of come in and out of teaching. All of those are great. There's nothing wrong with that. It's up to you. I think when you know it's time to stop, it's because you're struggling to find joy. Even if you love the classroom part, you love teaching children, you get on with your colleagues, but you sort of stuck. There's not much joy in the day. You turn up and you go through the motions, but you're not loving it in that way. And it's maybe that's the point when you really are done with break duty and staff meetings and report writing, or I don't know, all the other stuff that we're creating schemes of work that for all these observations that nobody reads, and another policy that nobody reads, that kind of stops you from teaching, stops you from the joyful stuff. Or maybe you're just fed up with the fight of trying to get money into your department and for the benefit of the students. Whatever that point of you're done is okay too. Because remember, you are an amazing teacher, and the skills you have will go off into any career that you want to go into. Coaching, teaching, whatever it is, completely out of teaching, something musical. But really remember this, you have made a difference to many, many students. So there's no guilt for leaving when you're ready to leave. That may be you do the whole 40 years, you might do 3 years and go and do something different. Sometimes we stay in it too long. For me, I feel that was the case. I stayed and stayed, and there was points where I was hitting burnout, and I should have taken a year off and gone and done something different. But I didn't. I wasn't brave enough, and that because I always wanted to keep being involved in music. And sometimes we need to have a rest to go and try something different. That's perfectly acceptable too. But you'll know when that's your time. And the wonderful thing about teaching, once you are qualified and you have all that experience, nobody can take that away from you. And you'll always be able to find another job in education, even if you decide to have a couple of years out of teaching. Knowing when to leave, to change roles, or to stop teaching is a difficult decision, and something you should talk about with your family and with friends, and really, again, do what's best for you. However much we are loyal to our colleagues and to the students and music itself, sometimes we also have to remember to put ourselves first too. We have to be part of that self-care. We have to make sure our self-worth and our values are in a line, because it doesn't do your mental health any good if you're constantly unhappy. I really do hope this video has given you a few ideas about which way to go and when, or maybe it's the time not to go. And if you have any great advice, please feel free to put it in the chat. And if there's any questions you have, leave that also in the chat. We'd love to answer those questions, of course, make more videos on this topic. If you found this video helpful in any way, please let us know by liking or subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I hope you stick around for the next video.